Thank you for the invitation to speak today. I'm honored by my inclusion in this conference. I'll do my best to address the questions the conference organizers have put forth and look forward to discussing them in the forthcoming Q&A panel. First question. As an archaeologist, a question about the diversity of human experience is exciting, terrifying, and humbling. Archaeology is the collective, deep chronological documentation of the capacity of humans to imagine different ways to live. Archaeologists trade in time depth, and humans have found endless ways to express themselves, to live together, to love each other, and to hate each other. We have the unique challenge of interpreting past and present ways of life from material culture, also known as artifacts, allowing us the ability to examine people before and without writing, but with writing as well. Like other disciplines, we often get lost in microcosms, the pursuit of small variations in pottery morphology, in regional differences in cuisine, and this is delightful and necessary. But sometimes we are asked to look up from our bones and artifacts and give insights into our modern condition, and many of us shy away from this, and with good cause. Archaeology has been used extensively by racists, colonialists, nationalists to prop up horrifying regimes and practices. Archaeologists have stolen extensively from indigenous people and have profited both academically and financially from the removal of these antiquities. This is archaeology under empire, the organized destruction under which we all live. This is also called capitalist realism by Mark Fisher, wherein capitalism seamlessly occupies the horizons of the thinkable. How can we unlearn the stories that we tell about our past that imply a direct trajectory into neoliberalism and globalization? It is difficult for archaeologists and, I'd argue, historians to think about the past in non-neoliberal terms in ways that are not determined by economics, to defamiliarize ourselves enough to move out of our comfort zones in interpreting past behavior. Happily, I was taught to valorize archaeology on a smaller scale, the archaeology of households, examining the life history of a person, of a single vessel. These are intimate stories of personal struggle, of resistance, of harmony, of love. Just telling these small stories was enough for me, for a while, to spark recognition or alienation, haunting the future with the past. But lately I've been finding that this is not entirely satisfactory. There are many examples from the past that force us to think differently about the structure of society, gender, and race in the present. For example, I live and work in York, a small city in England that has layers of deep history, founded by the Romans as Eboracum in 71 AD and inhabited since that time. Eboracum was cosmopolitan, as evidenced by epigraphy, vessels typical of North African foodways, and the chemical analysis of skeletal remains. This was reflected in an animation for a children's television show on the BBC, depicting what we would call a mixed-race family. This show was immediately attacked on social media by racists who claimed that this was not an accurate depiction of the Romans. Mary Beard, a prominent classical archaeologist, rebuffed this claim, and she was subsequently attacked by the right-wing racists. The idealized notion of a white Eurocentric past is used by these racists to dispute both a diverse past and to violently reject a multi-ethnic present. Still, we cannot hide from this fight. We must be prepared with our knowledge from deep history to fight fascism, structural inequality, and racism. This cannot be the work of a few rarefied scholars, but must be a collective responsibility. How do we promote public memory as the means to cope with the crisis? Building on the previous question, archaeologists have long been interested in storytelling. If we cannot translate our knowledge in a meaningful way to multiple audiences, we are failing. Furthermore, if we tell this story without the participation of the public, we are failing. The idea that we can promote public memory, to my mind, is a bit mistaken. You must work in partnerships with the public to understand the memory that is already there, and work together to compare this memory to the archaeological record. Collectivist strategies must be used to form public memory, and this memory should be diverse without reifying or amplifying fascist or racist voices. Our expertise has been formed over many years, and we should recognize that expertise. But equally, we should reject artificial authority enforced by hierarchical structures and reorganize ourselves along more egalitarian lines. During the pandemic, Mutual aid networks have sprung up across the world, people working together to bring food, shelter, and medical aid to those who need it the most. We can let ourselves be led by these community efforts, asking what people would have from us, rather than the usual predatory stance of many academics. How can we use archaeology and heritage to promote community feeling, to come together to provoke joy, and to build resistance in the face of our ongoing crises? As the late anthropologist David Graeber states, direct action is a matter of acting as if you were already free. The communities that you build through projects that try to understand the past together are incredibly important. Archaeology tells us that we as humans are resilient, and we must trust in our resilience and make kin and build things together. The next question: how do we reimagine the future post-crisis in relation to digital artifacts and cultural heritage? Prefigurative politics must lead any reimagining the future. Prefiguration is the attempt to live as you would go on, to actively create the kinship and power that you would like to foment in the future. Sadly, we often prefigure futures that are actively detrimental to forming more egalitarian, sustainable ways of living. The pandemic has shown us how useful it is to have access to digital archives, artifacts, even entire sites. Yet, as the science fiction author William Gibson has famously stated, the future is already here, it is just not very evenly distributed. There are immense digital archives of cultural materials, but these are far from universal or secure. Which materials are deemed important enough to digitize, to make available, and to maintain in perpetuity? Which parts of our past are thus made obscure, inessential, invisible? Archaeologist Lewis Borg asks us what future history we are constructing as archaeologists when we focus only on hierarchical state societies. He cites UNESCO World Heritage Site inscription as an example of archaeologists perpetuating this colonial hierarchical heritage. Of the 61 UNESCO World Heritage Cultural Sites in North America, only 10% can best be described as horizontally organized, which does not accurately reflect the sociopolitical history in North America and the Caribbean, which was overwhelmingly organized horizontally, Borg states. We must attend future history by querying which sites, structures, and artifacts are digitized and distributed, and which are left unspoken and offline. Otherwise, we are at risk of creating a future history that continues with our current and blatantly disastrous adherence to capital and state. As archaeologists James Flexner and Edward Gonzalez Tennant state, an important line of inquiry stems from dissatisfaction with and deep skepticism of linear narrative building that places capital and the state as inevitable endpoints of cultural evolution. The International Workers of the World and International Labor Union have a commitment to forming the structure of the new society within the shell of the old. A prefigurative digital archaeology must stop building 3D castles and temples that erase the labor of the people who built them. We must understand the waste generated by mining for materials to create digital infrastructure and the exploitive practices of tech companies who create our tools. We must engage with Bill Caraher's slow archaeology, which queries the methods that we use to record archaeology at the cost of skilled craftspersonship and the acceleration strategies of late capitalism. We must rethink intellectual property and museum practice to address structural oppression and colonialism. Finally, the authoritarian organization and neoliberalization of academia must be resisted. And the final question: how do we make meaning of the digital present in connection to the past? Digital archaeology is generally defined by the tools and methods employed in the investigation and interpretive display of the past. But I am a digital archaeologist because I find this mode of practice transformative and creative, and we must attend to this joy to fuel the construction of alternatives to life under empire. Further, I have argued that the digital present has allowed further exploration of a post-human past. Virtual and augmented reality can provide a meeting ground where digital materiality defines all subjects, thus allowing boundary transgressions. Machines as our co-authors, our playground, the under-examined skeletal structure, and the chatting emulators. One of the most exciting and powerful potentials within digital archaeology is the ability to make a viable, interstitial space where material expression from the past and present can commingle in commensurate space. Interstitial spaces blur boundaries between the human body, places, and things. The digital present is itself under scrutiny. A contemporary archaeology of the digital is underway. In 2001, archaeologist and journalist Christine Finn excavated Silicon Valley and conducted a survey of computer collections showing productive archaeological investigations of what was already becoming retro tech. Gabe Mashenska treated a USB drive found during an archaeological excavation as an assemblage. His analysis of the files reflected the everyday life of a young man. Sarah Perry and I excavated a hard drive by surveying the contents and assembling the drive into component parts, finding the translation of formal archaeological recording methods to this unorthodox context, illuminating and decentering. Finally, Andrew Reinhardt's research on archaeological investigations of the video game as a built environment and forthcoming investigations of the archaeology of algorithms provides an understanding of the software infrastructures too often constructed as ephemeral. As archaeologists, we are beginning to examine our digital present, making it visible, understanding how it shapes our thinking, and how we co-construct almost every aspect of our experience. I am aware that much of this may seem like an impossible task. The important point from this talk would be to conduct humanities research as joyful resistance to tyranny and hierarchy, whenever and however you can. Thank you again for inviting me to comment on these questions, and I look forward to the panel discussion.